Hey YouTube, I'm back again with another video. Today I kind of wanted to take a pivot and I wanted to go to do functions. Um, it's a little bit of an introductory to JavaScript. There's many components and parts to JavaScript, but I just want to do functions as an introduction. I want to do kind of like a interactive little counter app where you, the user, can go on there and you can just click the app. So let's get started, and I'll keep explaining what I'm doing as I go through it. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my JavaScript file. So I'm going to name this index. That stands for JavaScript. So now I'm going to go and connect my JavaScript to my HTML. Same thing as where I created this CSS. So let's go, and it will be script. I have to do my source. Index.js, and I have to defer it. Okay. Now let's go into here. So in order to do this counter or countdown app, I'm going to have to create some buttons. I'm going to do that here. Button. Let's do a line break. So we'll be there. Okay. Let's do these two. This. Let's name this. Increment. Okay. Button. And my button be and the equals to and let's see, we're gonna do a refresh button as well. I'm gonna put that as the okay. So these are my two buttons. Also, I have to use, see, implement counter. Let's see, H2. We'll have to do another. Let's do that at H3. And set that to 0. This is going to be my counter. So 2 equals. And that's going to start at 0. Let me move this over just a tad bit. Okay, so this is going to be my counter, right? So every time you click on that, it's not clickable right now, but every time you click on it, this number is going to go up one, or it may decrease. I probably will do, if I have enough time, maybe I'll do a decrease as well. But as of right now, we're going to increase in by one. Okay, so there's nothing going on in these buttons. I'll do that in a second. So right now, I'm not worrying about style or anything. I'm just trying to get to the nitty gritty. So next, we are going to go to our index.js. Okay. Okay. So the first thing we need to do, also, if you guys don't know what supercode is, it's basically just write down your steps. I'm going off the top of my head, but you have to write down your steps so that you know each step that you need to take when you are creating these things. So as of right now, I'm going to call my buttons, right? So there's this thing called variables. There are three variables. There are there's the var, the let, and the const. Okay. The var, we don't use the var. It's a bit confusing. So mainly we use two. We use let and const. Constant, you cannot reassign it, but let you can. So when we get to that point, I kind of explain what it is. So I'm going to call back my buttons. There's a lot of moving parts in this, but just bear with me. So we are going to do so we're going to call our buttons. So I want to call this increment button first. So we have to select it. And how we select it in JavaScript is I have to give it, so my variable, and then I have to give it a name. So I'm going to do increment, but increment just so I won't get confused. Increment equals NBDLC dot get element by D, and we will grab, so it's kind of like in CSS, you will grab the ID or the class. So we're just basically doing the same thing here. It's the same rule applies. Yeah. So get element by ID, you could just go grab the ID. If you do the query selector, you would have to do it like you would do in CSS. You would have to either do a dot or a hashtag sign. So I will show both ways here so I can kind of explain how I'm doing it. So I'm going to grab it by the ID first, which is what it is, right? Paste it here. Make sure. Okay. So now if I wanted to do it by query selector, it will be const equals, it'll be nothing, sorry. Query selector. And it will be, so now I'm grabbing it by the ID. So it will be hashtag and then increment button. So that's another way of doing it. But I'm not doing it that way. I'm just doing it this way. So I'm going to delete that out. And now we're going to go grab our next button. So we'll be const. Let's do refresh. Yeah. Oh, sorry, cannot do that. Cannot have any extras. Refresh by and it will be refresh. So button. Now, so I count them. So we want to do, when I do my, when I start my count, I want my count to start from 0. And I'm going to be using it multiple times. So therefore, I'm going to have to use let. So let count equals 0. So that's where I'm starting, right? Okay. I can go over the console log and everything, but I don't want to make this video too long. I'm just gonna show you the count app. I can, if you have any questions, I can go over all of those things. Okay. So now, functions. Good old functions. So I had a bit of a time with functions, but hey, practice, practice, practice so that you may get better. So the best way to describe functions is a way to make things happen. It's like a way to make actions happen on your page. That's the best way that I can describe functions. Okay, so let's get started with our first function. So, all right, and also I have to add event listeners to click on these buttons, right? So my first function will be, because I want the number to increase, right? All right, I want the number to increase every time I click the button. So now I'm gonna do a function called number increase. Why not? So function number increase. Okay, so this is just, the number increase is just my keyword. It's just the word I'm using for the function. For function, the standard is for function is, let me finish writing it out first. Do this. So this is the standard for function, right? So you can do, it will be function, keyword, and then your parentheses, and then your curly brackets. That is the standard for the function, okay? So in my function, I want to put things that I want to happen in this counter app, right? So what do I want? So when the user clicks the increment button, I want the number to increase by 1, right? So my count has started at 0. So let's do count equals count plus 1, right? That's it, right? So let's console log it to see if it does. If it doesn't, we did something wrong. So let's console count. Either I can go here, I can start a new terminal and do my console log, but I'm going to inspect it and see. Nothing is popping up. I think my console log count. Also too, I forgot, after functions, you have to call it, right? So how you call it is increase. There it is. There it is, 1. Right? So now what I want to happen is I want it to show to the screen. Let's X out of here. Okay. I want this to change. So how would I go about doing that? I would do it by, it would be the counter. So I have to declare that counter as well. So what I'm going to do is const. Let's say counts counter equals get D, and it would be counter. Okay. All right. So let's comment this out. How you comment is control and this / under the equal sign. All right. So now I wanted to print to the screen. And that will be counter text, or it could be inner text equals what? Count. Okay. See, changes, right? It changes to 1. So I want it to keep increasing each time as I hit increment. So what I need to do is I need to add an event listener to increment, right? So this is my function. So now I'm going to call my function in my event listener. So let's go and do that. So how we'll do that is I want to call the increment button. So it will be increment right here because this is my increment button. Okay. So let's do increment dot add event listener. Parentheses. The action I want to happen is when I click it, and then the function I want to use is number increase. Okay, that's the function I want to use. So now let's go test it and see if it works. There you go. It is. So now when I hit refresh, there's no refresh because now I need to create a function to go back to refresh it. Then when it refreshes, I need to create an event listener for that too. Same thing. Okay. So let's refresh. Goes back to 1. That's it. Okay. So even, let's see. So now I commented that out. My function is still going to work, as you can see. because I called it here under this function just to see if it was working. Okay, but if I didn't have this add event listener, I will have to keep this number increased. Keep it active because it wouldn't work unless I called it. So that's the basis of a function. So now let's go and create another function. Okay, so this will be function refresh. And what I want to happen inside of what I want to happen on the screen, I'm going to put inside this function. So when I refresh it, I want to go back to 0, right? So let's see if it works. Equals 0. And let's console log it. And let's call it refresh. Okay. Let's go to here. So it's not working because I didn't have my facility. But you can see the console log is 0. When I take it out, when I comment it out, it's going to disappear. So now let's actually add my refresh button. Add listener. Click. And what I want to happen is refresh. So that's all I want to happen. Let's see if it works. Okay, now what is the deal? What is the deal? Will be text equals. All right, now let's try it again. There it is. That refreshes to 0. But there's another thing. So now when I refresh it, it's still stuck at this count because it's still increasing, right? It doesn't go back to 0. So now I have to figure out why. Maybe, but see, I don't, we can try it. It's still not, it's still not refreshing. And it should refresh back to 0, but it's, let's check this out. It's still, now what's the problem? Just one. Let's try count. Those. See, now it's not refreshing. Okay. Still not refreshing. So okay, let's go. So I have to figure out why. Because it's bigger and it's refreshing, but why is the number still increasing after? Huh. Well, it looks like maybe I have to come back to this later tomorrow, guys, and explain to you why. But as you can see, that JavaScript is kind of complicated. You have to do a lot of debugging and figuring things out. So, but I will figure it out and I will bring it back to you. So that is it for today. And I hope you like functions. I didn't enjoy it as much in the beginning, but I hope you guys like it. And I hope you learned a little bit from my video. And that's it for now. Bye.